See, the $90.4 million bond package that was approved tonight by City Council was broken down into 5 propositions. Now, come this November, voters will make the ultimate decision on which projects they would like to see become a reality. Those who knew Timothy described him as kind and hardworking. In fact, he worked multiple jobs. I spoke to his former employer as he reflects on Timothy's life. We're told the accident happened shortly after 6 o'clock this morning. Now, even though this fire rages on some 8-9 hours later, thankfully no one was hurt. Having a restaurant full of customers is a good thing unless you don't have enough employees to meet the demand. Restaurants say when people do fill out an application, many don't show back up for work. Once the city of College Station completes construction, you'll have 2 4-lane roads with a 2-lane road in the middle. That's where residents say they believe that will pose some safety concerns. When things get cold, many of us pull out things like a space heater, but fire officials say if you're going to use a space heater, they want to make sure that you use it in the proper way and be extra cautious. Carla, when drivers get behind the wheel next week, they want you to put down the distractions, focus on the road, and keep an eye out for children and school buses. Now, roughly those 150 protesters stayed for about an hour. After the protest, they said that they plan to take their demands to the leadership of Texas A&M. Live on the campus of Texas A&M, Donnie Tuggle, News 3. Carla, protesters just began arriving here at Rudder Plaza just a short time ago. They tell me that the university has a cultural problem that needs to be changed. They also say that they have proof. Recently released report released by the university is proof of the culture change that needs to happen. Researchers have named these 2 new strains, BV2 and BV3, after the Brazos Valley. They say that one strain seems to be common while the other strain shows signs of being 2 strains combined. Today we heard from an investigator with Child Protective Services. Adams had an extensive history with the agency, including the death of another child. This property here along University Drive will be the new home to active senior living housing, retail space, and restaurants. City leaders say new developments like these are vital to the economic growth of the community.
Great news. He is alive and well.
Those were the words everyone had been waiting and praying to hear. After days of searching woods, ponds, homes, and cars, 3-year-old Christopher Ramirez is now back with his family.
There's not normally a situation where you have a 3-year-old child who has gone almost 72 hours with no food, no water, no shelter, trucking through woods in this Texas heat.
Investigator James Ellis with the Grimes County Sheriff's Office spent the majority of those 72 hours helping lead the search efforts. And despite the tough days and nights, he, along with over 200 search and rescue teams, never lost hope.
Messages that I received, emails that I received from individuals who were all basically telling us to give up hope, and never at any point in time did we ever lose faith in the fact that we were going to find Christopher before we left this location.
It was tough times like these that Chuck Flieger with the Amber Alert Network of the Brazos Valley says brings out the best in everyone.
It goes to show what people can do. People are good people. We sometimes get down on our country and our society and as a whole, but doggone it, there's a lot of good people that came out and helped make this happen.
Since day one of the search, rescuers vowed not to give up. They say finding Christopher Saturday morning is something they'll never forget.
It was wonderful to get that call that we think we have him, and to see him alive and drinking water. He was excited. See his mother embrace him was just very touching.
We never lost faith, and we never lost hope in the fact that Christopher would be found. I'm proud to say we accomplished that.
In Plantersville, Donnie Tuggle, News 3. It was a mixture of emotions in downtown Bryan Christmas night. I need your love like I need water. Families gathered to sing, light candles, and reflect on the lives of loved ones that have passed away.
It's hard for everyone right now, just, through the holidays.
Desiree and Joe Martinez organized tonight's Love and Light ceremony. This is their second Christmas without their daughter, Joanne. They say the hurt never goes away.
She was beautiful, and we got to enjoy so many great moments with her, and we miss her so much. So this was just a way to have her with us today.
Sabina Saucedo recently lost her husband Richard to diabetes. She says Christmas is just not the same without him.
It's been 7 months since we lost him, so it's been hard, but things like this is really, really helping us cope with the loss of him being gone.
Saucedo says she knows Richard is smiling down on their family.
This, like remembering lighting a candle for him, is something he would want us to do, and for us to keep going no matter what we go through, just know that he's still here.
And for the Martinez family, they say Joanne's light was so great in life that it still shines, although she's not physically here.
She was funny. She was outgoing. She was beautiful, and she just loved people in general. So I know she would love this.
In Bryan, Donnie Tuggle, News 3.
Just the fact that he was here the whole time was just terrifying.
As the memorial for Mark Collins and his grandsons continue growing, so do the questions surrounding the manhunt for Gonzalo Lopez and what TDCJ knew before the Collins family arrived in Centerville that afternoon. Questions the Lieutenant Governor is demanding answers to as well. We learned Tuesday that a cabin near the home where the Collins family was murdered had been broken into only days before.
I think had we known a place had been broken into here, I think we may have just been a little bit more careful and not let our guards down so soon.
The other question lawmakers in Austin want to know the answer to is how Lopez stayed under the radar for so long, eluding over 300 searchers, K-9s, and helicopters, only to end up at the Collins home, barely a mile from a TDCJ staging area.
Like he was right here under everybody's noses and was overlooked, you know. He was con artist, I suppose, because he hid well, you know, but you know, we have 4 beautiful children and a grandfather that are no longer with us because somehow or another he got away.
Sam Houston State Criminal Justice Professor Mitchell Roth agrees the community let their guard down too soon, but says residents in the search zone should have been told of the break-in so close to their homes.
It's hard to assign blame in something like this. It's so easy to do it, but you know, it's not fair because it's a group effort, essentially.
We need to learn from this experience, and unfortunately, these people lost their lives.
In Leon County, Donnie Tuggle, News 3.
We've been vandalized and broken into before, but not to this extent.
Marcus and Tremitra Mathis have owned a Horsebreakers Cafe in Midway for just over 3 years. They say what they experienced when they opened on Monday was heartbreaking. Vandals defaced the restaurant with racial slurs, explicit pictures, and slang terms directed toward law enforcement, most of which is too graphic for television.
It makes me feel horrible, you know, disrespected.
Community members feel the same way.
It's sad. Like, these are some of the sweetest people I know, and for people to be doing this to their business is just not okay.
Residents say the small town with just over 300 residents is better than this.
But the community's not going to tolerate it, not going to tolerate hate. That's hate. That's hate because of somebody's skin color. That's all it is. We all bleed red. There's no sense in it, none at all.
And for the Mathis family, they say they won't let this deter them from serving the community.
There's way more good people here and good families that believe in doing right than it is the few little bad people.
In Midway, Donnie Tuggle, News 3.
Don't think I don't know what's going on.
For musicians like Ashley Morgan, requests for custom songs on social media is nothing new, like a request she got on Instagram.
He asked if I do original songs. I said yes, I write songs, and he asked if I would write a happy birthday song for his son, Solomon, who is going to be turning 5 in August.
It sounded like music to Morgan's ears. The man sent a check, but it was way more than the $500 she asked for.
He wanted me to deposit the $3,000 check and send them back the $2,500.
Morgan deposited the check, but soon felt that she might have been scammed.
You tried to play me like a fool, you know it's just what you're doing ain't wrong.
Katie Gallen with the Better Business Bureau says these types of scams can happen to anyone, no matter what profession you're in.
If they are sending you an overpayment, you need to, of course, ask for a corrected check. So don't deposit it, don't do anything like that. And if they're refusing to do that, that's when you need to just cut off that transaction immediately.
Luckily, Morgan was able to work with the bank before she withdrew the money.
My bank account is not large, so to give somebody $2,500 not accountable for, like, that would have just really taken a hit to my my music career.
As far as her message to the scammer, she says,
You think I'll forgive you, but hell no.
Donnie Tuggle, News 3.
I was excited because this is exactly what we needed.
What once was a negative message has now been transformed into a positive one. A week after vandals targeted the Horsebreakers Cafe in Midway with racist and vulgar graffiti, the family-owned business is getting a facelift and security enhancements.
If we're not looking after one another, people fall by the wayside. And in a small community like here in Midway, there's not a lot of business. And anytime a business gets impacted by crime, that business can end up going out of business.
James Cooper is a reserve deputy with the McClellan County Sheriff's Office and the owner of the Stratmont Group, a security and IT firm based in Bryan. His team donated security cameras and spent the day Wednesday installing them.
If you're not serving your community, you're not actually fulfilling your destiny. So I feel like in our business, we can serve the community, the business district, the homeowner, to help protect their property or their peace of mind.
An unknown community member even stopped by to paint over the graffiti that once placed a cloud of hatred over this community. The Mathis family and all involved say it's all about being a good friend and neighbor.
Just important to get out, support your local business, support your local neighbor, you know, help your community, keep it intact and help it grow.
We should all stick together and support one another. And if we did more of that, everybody would be okay.
In Midway, Donnie Tuggle, News 3. Foul odors, dirty water, and dead fish are what Julia Maxwell discovered Monday morning at the creek outside her home in Bryan.
First I noticed an odor of kind of like a methane gas, kind of a sewer gas smell. I looked around, I didn't see anything spilling in. And then when I was walking my dog, I looked over and saw these white things in the creek, and then I noticed they were fish, and hundreds of fish.
Maxwell says kids and pets frequent the many creeks in the area.
People walk their dogs here, and they drink out of and kids fish out of here. So kind of concerned, like, what is the level of toxicity of our water that's flowing through our neighborhood?
The city of Bryan says a clogged sewer was the source of the problem.
It started based on what we can tell from some roots that were growing in the old clay tile line in a joint. And then other things started collecting on that and built up a mass that finally just stopped the line up.
A sewer line that Bryan Public Works Director Jason Barknett says is now fixed poses no further harm to the environment.
We had our environmental team. They took samples out of the creek and checked the dissolved oxygen in the creek. And then also, we got the rain after we had repaired it, so that got some fresh water into the creek.
Maxwell says the creeks and ponds in the area are a source of peace and enjoyment for the community, and hopes the city can have the creeks restocked.
I feel bad that there were so many fish because, like I said, children like to come fish down here.
In Bryan, Donnie Tuggle, News 3. What If I Could Tell You, a song specially composed to honor the life of Roel Prado, filled the Presbyterian Church in Bryan Thursday night.
Well, the Sing Cadets are one part choir, but the other part, we are a brotherhood.
A brotherhood that Ryan Oakteeth says was the foundation for his friendship with Roel.
As I came into this group in the Sing Cadets and into the university, Roel was one of the first guys that I was able to look up to. He was a leader.
As Roel's family looked on, they say they don't want any other family to go through the hurt they feel.
He was a very happy-go-lucky young man who was always smiling, always telling jokes, always playing jokes. But I realized after we read his note that he felt very lonely.
David Kipp, director of the Singing Cadets, says he's never met anyone more full of life than Roel, and says it's important to be kind because you never know what anyone is going through.
It's just really hard to say, I need help. And we want to raise awareness of people who are struggling with depression and people who are having a hard time.
I wish he had been here tonight to watch his buds. I wish he had understood how much he was loved by not just his buds, but his family.
In Bryan, Donnie Tuggle, News 3. Rusty, according to the National Insurance Crime Bureau, catalytic converter theft claims jumped 325% in a single year. Officials say prosecuting thieves pose a huge challenge because in most cases, it's hard to prove the parts are stolen. It's a crime that can happen in just minutes, and the aftermath can cost you a pretty penny. And if that's not bad enough, the vast majority of these crimes don't get solved. If you had to estimate how many of these cases go unprosecuted, what would you say?
I would say probably 90 to 95%.
Brazos County District Attorney Jarvis Parsons says it's a growing problem. Texas ranks #2 in the nation for catalytic converter thefts. According to the National Insurance Crime Bureau, in 2021, over 52,000 were reported stolen, an increase of over 1,200% since 2019. Parsons says unlike stolen vehicles, matching the stolen parts to a victim often makes it difficult to charge thieves with the crime.
In prosecution, we have to find the stolen property and find the owner, because there are no markings when they find the catalytic converter. Because one, we have to find it, and then two, we have to then match it back to the particular owner. So we may find a catalytic converter here in town that may be stolen from out of state or out of county.
It's a crime law enforcement officials and the district attorney are working to put an end to, but say taking proactive steps can help.
Consider having your VIN number, your vehicle identification number, etched onto the catalytic converter. It may not necessarily stop thieves from taking it, but it does help police track it, and it can help in an investigation.
Daniel Armbruster is with AAA Texas. He says there's other options if you want to take prevention to the next level.
One of the things you can do is weld your catalytic converter to your vehicle's frame. That makes it harder to steal. It takes more time to break it off.
And most importantly, Parsons says to be sure to report the crime.
Report it to the police so that when that happens, the police, when they're doing research and doing investigation, may be able to find a police report, even if it's in another city or another state, so they can liaison with law enforcement and then get you back the catalytic converter so you can get on your way.
In 2021, 36 states, including Texas, introduced new or revised existing legislation to help with these crimes. Many of those bills pertain to scrapyard regulations and who can sell catalytic converters to scrapyards. Rusty?
All right, Donnie Tuggle, interesting stuff. Thank you, sir.